Welcome to National PTA's Common Core State Standards Mythbusters webinar. My name is Shaton Berry, and I am the team lead for Michigan PTA's Common Core State Standards Initiative. In this webinar, we will go over some of the myths that are being stated regarding the Common Core State Standards. Myth. Current standards are sufficient for our students. According to an analysis by ACT, 3/4 of young men and women entering college were not adequately prepared academically for first-year college courses. You can see how your states measure up at www.achieve.org/state. One of the bigger issues is that a lot of our students are graduating from high school and going into college and having to take remedial courses. Having to take those remedial courses discourages those students. It also discourages those students from continuing on with their college career, and it also costs them more money for remediation. So if the Common Core State Standards were designed to help with that problem of making sure that every student receives a quality education. Myth. The Common Core State Standards are not any better than existing state standards. The Thomas B. Fordham Institute, a conservative think tank, studies show that Common Core State Standards are superior to standards currently in use in 39 states in math and 37 states in English. For 33 states, the new standards are superior in both math and reading. The shared standards will increase accountability by providing transparent data that allows for true comparisons across state lines. The problem is that there were so many deviations and so many differences in state standards from state to state to state. The Common Core State Standards are designed to level the playing field to allow for that every student will receive a quality education. Myth. The Common Core State Standards are a national curriculum. This is simply not true. The standards are not a curriculum. Rather, they are a set of goals that outline what students should be able to know and do in each grade in English and math. Simply, the standards are what a student should know, and curriculum is how the student will learn that information. Standards and curriculum are used interchangeably a lot, but they are two separate things. Again, standards are what the student should know. Curriculum is how they will learn it. Next, Common Core State Standards dictate what text teachers will use for instruction. Common Core State Standards define what students need to know. They do not define what teachers should teach or how students should learn. The standards will actually help preserve freedom for curriculum choice. The local school districts, teachers, principals, school boards, they control the curriculum in their area. The Common Core State Standards does not dictate curriculum. Again, the Common Core State Standards are what a student should know. Curriculum is how they will learn it, and that how is defined locally within the school district. Myth. Common Core was developed quickly and with little public comment. The standards were developed by a thoughtful and transparent process led by the National Governors Association and Council for Chief State School Officers. The process relied on teachers, experts from across the country, and feedback from key stakeholders and the general public. Every governor and every chief state school officer, the superintendents of your school education department, participated in the development of the Common Core State Standards, whether that state adopted the Common Core or not. National Governors Association and CCSSO received nearly 10,000 comments in response to the draft standards, which were incorporated into the standards. You can visit the National Governors Association website and the Council of Chief State School Officers website to see some of that information and see the progress and the development of the standards. Myth. Common Core means federal control of school curriculum, i.e. controlled by Obama administration left-wing bureaucrats. Again, the Common Core state standards are not a national mandate or a national curriculum. States voluntarily chose whether or not to adopt the standards and retain full authority for implementation, preventing the possibility of a federal takeover. This administration has had the lightest touch on the development of standards than any other administration in the past. The Common Core state standards are not a national curriculum, and the Obama administration did not have any input in the development of the Common Core state standards. Again, standards are what a student should know, and curriculum is how they learn it. Myth. The federal government made states adopt Common Core state standards by threatening to withhold federal education dollars. The federal government provided incentives through the optional Race to the Top program for states to adopt bold education reforms, including higher standards, but each state voluntarily made the decision to adopt Common Core and followed its own specific constitutional, legislative, or administrative processes to do so. While Race to the Top did incentivize the adoption of Common Core state standards, it did not require the adoption of Common Core state standards. This is shown through some states who received Race to the Top funding but did not adopt the Common Core state standards. Virginia is an example of a state who did receive Race to the Top funding but have not adopted the Common Core state standards. So again, while the Race to the Top program incentivized states with to adopt the Common Core state standards, it was not required to receive Race to the Top funding. Next, Common Core state standards will cost more by requiring states to spend for training and tests. The Common Core state standards make economic sense. Higher standards will prepare our future workforce for the global economy, strengthening our nation's competitiveness. States already pay for training. They already pay for testing. The Common Core state standards in the long run will make those amounts that they're spending on those things more cost efficient. Next, Common Core will control the curriculum of charter schools, private schools, religious schools, Catholic schools, and homeschooling. While the Common Core state standards are internationally benchmarked, rigorous, clear, and straightforward enough to lend themselves easily to voluntary adoption by charter schools, private and faith-based schools, and homeschools, these entities will continue to have maximum flexibility on how and what they teach their kids. Whether schools of choice have to conform to state accountability policies remains a state, not a federal decision. There are a lot of charter school organizations, there are a lot of private schools and religious schools, and Catholic schools who have adopted the Common Core state standards. Here in Michigan, the diocese Catholic schools have adopted the Common Core state standards. Next, the federal government is using Common Core to collect data about individual students. This is simply not true. And this is one of those scare tactics that people are using to misinform people. The Common Core does not require the collection of any data about students. It is a set of grade level expectations for students. Again, the Common Core does not require collection of any data about students. The Common Core is only a set of grade level expectations for students. So please don't be alarmed when you hear those type of things. That is just not true. The Common Core does not collect data and does not have a mechanism in which it could collect data. The federal government is prohibited by law from collecting any personal data, information about students, date of birth, place, what state they live in, what city they're in, Social Security information. Any of that information is prohibited by law from the federal government to collect. That information is protected through the FERPA Act, which is the Federal Education Rights and Privacy Act. It does not allow the federal government to collect data about individual students. Next, the federal government is collecting 400 pieces of sensitive student data, including religious preference and health information. The federal government is prohibited by law from collecting any personally identifiable data about individual students. Dimensions of 400 points of data reference the National Education Data Model, a sort of dictionary for data that shows how data could be organized by states or districts to answer their own questions about policy and practice. This tool does not collect or contain any actual data. The tool is not related to Common Core or any federal initiative. Again, the Common Core state standards do not have a mechanism for collecting data. The Common Core state standard is only grade level expectation for students in each grade. Next, states are selling student-level data to vendors and corporations who wish to develop new products to market to students. The truth is, states and districts cannot sell student information. Nearly every state and school district contracts with a vendor to help them store and use their data. If your state or school district works with a vendor, that vendor is not allowed to let anyone see or use the data in any way that your state or district didn't specifically ask for. If your state or district hires another company, that company must follow all of the state and federal laws that protect student privacy. Again, the Common Core does not require data collection, and student data is protected under state and federal law. Next, adopting Common Core standards will bring all state standards down to the lowest common denominator, which means states will be taking a step backwards. That is simply not true. The standards are designed to build upon the most advanced current thinking and preparing all students for success in college and their careers. This will result in moving even the below state standards to the next level. We need to make sure that you understand that adopting the Common Core does not bring down the low states to a lowest common denominator. It's making sure that every state is on a level playing field to ensure that every child receives a quality education. This is what the Common Core state standards is about, is assuring that every child in every school, in every community, in every state receives a quality education. The Common Core state standards are the floor. They are not the ceiling. Every state has the right to add to the Common Core state standards to make them their own, to make sure that the standards are meeting the needs of the children in that particular state. So adopting the Common Core state standards will only benefit each state that adopts. Next, the Common Core state standards have a list of required readings that include federal socialist documents written by President Obama and pornographic material. This is simply not true. The standards give examples of literature and informational text reading material for each grade level. The choices should serve as a useful guidepost in helping educators select texts of similar complexity, quality, and range for their own classrooms. They expressly do not represent a partial or completing reading list. The Common Core state standards of Appendix B shows the reading list that is given as examples. I guess the key word there is examples. It does not say that you have to use these books, and it does not say that you don't have to use them. But it is very clear that there are no pornographic materials on that list, and there are no socialist documents that are written by the President Obama that are forced for teachers or educators to use in their classrooms. That's simply not true. Implementing the Common Core will require any big changes in teaching or learning. Will not require any big changes in teaching or learning. That is a myth. The Common Core will require new methods of teaching that lead students to become critical thinkers and problem solvers with higher levels of subject mastery. The idea behind the Common Core state standards is to allow teachers to be more free in what they're teaching, to allow teachers to collaborate with one another regarding the topics that they are teaching. Teachers go to school with people who live in different states. They go to school, they learn how to become teachers, and then they're not able to collaborate with their cohorts from school because they're not teaching the same things. They don't have the same set of standards. They're not able to collaborate in order to make sure that every child is receiving a quality education. The Common Core State Standards will help with that. There's now a set of standards that teacher schools can utilize and help teachers become better educators while educating our students. Myth. The Common Core does not have enough emphasis on fiction and literature. While there is a shift toward including informational text in the standards, literature is also included. The standards require certain critical content for all students, including classic myths and stories from around the world, America's founding documents, and foundational American literature and Shakespeare. Again, you will need to review the Appendix B of the Common Core State Standards to see that there's a wide variety of fiction and literature pieces that are included in the optional reading list. Myth. The math standard does not address algebra until high school. There's a great deal of algebra in the 8th grade standard and a strong focus on the prerequisites for algebra in the elementary grades. One of the things that the standards go back to is building upon the building foundation for mathematics. So you learn one foundation, you learn how to add, then you go from addition to multiplication. You go from multiplication to exponents. You go from exponents to algebraic fractions. These things all help in a progression, and that's what the Common Core has added back to standards. So while there may not be algebra being taught in 5th grade, but those foundations are being taught, and a lot of research surrounding mathematics shows that if a student is not grounded in the foundations of math, then it's harder for them to move on to higher learning math. Here are some resources for you regarding the Common Core State Standard. You can always visit the National PTA's Common Core State Standard website. You can also visit www.corestandards.org. There's Excellence in Education Foundation and the DataQualityCampaign.org. I hope that you have enjoyed this webinar. I hope that some of the myths that you've heard have been dispelled. If you have the need for any more information, please contact Leanne Kendrick at the email address and phone number here. Thank you.